Welcome to my Old Republic Spotlight featuring the Sorcerer, a Sith healing class. We're going to start by looking at the corruption tree. We're not going to go into too much detail here, but there are 5 important skills that every healer is going to need. Resurgence is the first major skill that you pick up in corruption. It's an instant, cheap heal that has a 9-second heal over time. Force bending is your next skill. It adds a sort of bonus effect to your other heals. We'll go into this with more detail later. Innervate is the second heal from skills. It's a channeled heal over time effect. Force Surge is a passive skill that affects Innervate and Consumption. Whenever Innervate crits, you can use Consumption without damaging your own health. Revivification is the final skill in the corruption tree. It's a large area heal that leaves a 10-second heal over time on the ground. In the description box below, there are some links to some pre-made talent trees. Hopefully this will give you some inspiration on how to spend your own skills. Next up, we're going to review your heals and abilities and take a quick look at how they all work together. Static Barrier is your basic bubble. It mitigates a set amount of damage before breaking. It's also important to remember that if you put this on someone, you'll have to wait 20 seconds before you can shield them again. Dark Heal is a fast, expensive heal that does a moderate amount of healing. It's a great recovery spell, but if you use it too much, you'll run out of force very quickly. Dark Infusion is a slower, more potent version of Dark Heal. It's about 1 second longer and costs 5 more force, but does around twice as much healing. Innervate is the channeled spell that you picked up in the corruption tree earlier. Even by itself, this is one of your most efficient heals. Unfortunately, it also has a 9-second cooldown. Recklessness is one of your self buffs to increase healing output. It greatly increases your chance to crit with any heal. This is best used with Dark Infusion for a huge heal crit, or Innervate to proc your Force Surge, which will let you use a free consumption. Consumption is pretty straightforward. It sacrifices your health and gives you force, unless you have the Force Surge proc, in which case it costs no health and gives you free force back. Keep an eye out for this icon. This is Force Surge. When you see this, you have a free consumption. Revivification is the AoE heal over 10 seconds. As you watch the video, keep in mind that the actual heal is much larger than the graphic on the ground. Resurgence is by far your most important healing spell. At first glance, it's a simple instant heal with a 15-second heal over time, but because of force bending, the skill you picked up earlier in corruption, it modifies how all of your other heals work. Whenever you see this icon, it means your next heal is going to benefit from Resurgence. When used with Dark Heal, it cuts the cost in half, making it 25 force, which is extremely cheap. If used with Dark Infusion, it reduces the casting time by 1 second, making it just as fast as Dark Heal. In other words, if you use Resurgence with Dark Infusion, it costs 5 more force than a normal Dark Heal, but gives you almost twice as much healing and the same cast time. Resurgence with Innervate increases its critical chance by 25%, which almost always guarantees you Force Surge, which is what gives you the free consumption. On top of Innervate being one of the most efficient spells, when paired with Resurgence to give that guaranteed Force Surge, it really increases the amount of force that you can get back. When used with Revivification, it decreases the force cost to 70. An easy way to get force back is to use a cheap Revivification, and then use Consumption multiple times. You'll take damage, but because you're sitting in the AoE heal, it won't be significant. Now that we're familiar with the healing spells, let's try out some real rotations. This first rotation pairs Resurgence with Dark Heal, and uses Innervate as a second priority. The pros to this is that it's a very simple rotation. On the downside, however, Innervate's not going to proc Force Surge a lot because you're not using Resurgence with it, which means you're not going to get a lot of consumptions off for free. This rotation is best for people who have a high critical chance. With enough crit, you can proc Force Surge with your Innervate without having to use Resurgence, meaning you can save Force Spending for more important spells. Between Resurgence and Innervate cooldowns, you'll have a small window to use your other abilities. You can use Consumption if your Force Surge is procced, or Dark Infusion to do a large, single-target heal. You can also use Static Shield in between rotations to stop incoming damage. The bubble will give you enough time to use utility spells like purging debuffs or dropping AoE heals. Don't forget to watch for Force Surge and Force Spending procs. They're vital to your role as a healer. In this second rotation, Resurgence is paired with Innervate instead of Dark Heal. Between the two cooldowns, you'll mostly be using Dark Infusion, since Dark Heal isn't very effective without the Resurgence proc. One of the great things about this rotation is that you don't need a lot of crit to use it effectively, since you'll be proccing Consumption a lot more often with Innervate. On the downside, this way is much more complex, since you have to weave in more Consumptions in between each of your heals. This rotation is all about reacting to procs, and using Resurgence on the right spells in between your Innervates. This third rotation takes it one step further. Once you're comfortable with all your abilities, this is what a full healing experience should look like. I did my best to emulate how I actually heal in a real fight. If it looks random and chaotic, that's because it is. The Sorcerer is a delicate balancing act between using all sorts of different abilities in different situations. It's very much a utility healing class. Now that we've seen the Sorcerer and have a feel for how it plays, let's take a look at some real hard mode flashpoints and see the healing in action. Don't forget that as a healer, you are still expected to use crowd control and interrupts on certain mobs. In this fight, a player dies right off the bat. Remember, mistakes happen. That's why you have battle res. Once the res player has a safe amount of health, I use Resurgence and then go back to healing the tank. In most clutch situations, Dark Infusion is usually the best heal to use, unless your tank is extremely low. In that case, I recommend Resurgence. You'll notice that before I even start this fight, I started using Static Shield on the party. It's a great way to mitigate early damage, but you have to be careful that they don't pull while you're still low on force. Revivification, or Heal Bomb as I like to call it, is a great way to deal with AoE splash damage, especially on boss fights. One thing that's different about the Old Republic from other games as a healer is that once you're behind in a fight, it's very hard to catch up. You'll notice I'll heal people to a safe amount and then use my heal bomb. I use it to top them off, but never as a direct heal. That's because it's a very small heal over a very long duration of time. Thanks for having a look at my Inquisitor Spotlight. Hopefully now you have a better idea of how sorcerers heal. If you have any questions or comments, please leave feedback. I do read it. Thanks for tuning in.